Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Darrell Brooks saga. On today's episode, we're gonna finish the sentencing remarks of Judge Darrell, and she's gonna input sentence on Mr. Brooks. So let's get right into the video. Thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing if you guys are not. I know over half of the people that watch my videos don't subscribe, are not subscribed. So it will do me a solid if you guys could. I'm trying to get to 2,000 subscribers, which will be an awesome number to get. I have Rory here. Say hello, Rory. Say subscribe, people. Subscribe to the channel. See more Rory. She's cute. Look at her. Look at her cutie. But yeah, without further ado, link to the original edit on the description below. Let's get right into it.
Today, my focus in sentencing will be about November 21 of 2021, the events shortly before that or leading up to it and after, and are not about Mr. Brooks's conduct during this trial, even though case law is very clear that his conduct at trial can and is a legitimate factor for the court to consider.
Yeah, and also, I just would like to remember that he said that his trial, the way that he was behaving, the way that everything that happened during the trial was something to consider for his sentence, and that's not true. Everything that we've been so far is about him on November 21st of 2021.
I need to make the record very clear that in no way what I do here today is based on Mr. Brooks exercising his right to a trial. That is a firmly embedded constitutional right, which I support, which I upheld. Of course, every person charged with a crime has a right to a trial. This court honored that right. I protected that right, even if Mr. Brooks treated it with contempt, disrespect, and at times like a game. But sentencing today is directly related to his conduct on November 21 of 2021 and the other sentencing factors, which, as I indicated previously, include the seriousness of the offense, the need to protect the public, and his character and rehabilitative needs.
So now he's doing the sign again. He wants to come back, even though 5 minutes earlier he was like, no, take me back there. Why do you want to be in there? You're not going to behave. You just want to scream and yell.
Today I am tasked with sentencing Darrell Brooks for 76 counts related to a couple of moments in time. Moments that are tragic, moments that were frankly avoidable. My sentence here today is, the purposes of it are twofold, really threefold if we think about the community. One, it is punishment. Two, protection of the community. And three, what I hope is justice and closure for the families and the community at large. I, of course, want to recognize and give due respect to the guilty verdicts that were rendered by the jury in this case. Not just 76 guilty verdicts, but the special verdict questions that they answered, including for counts 1 through 6 and 7 through 67 that had the special verdict question related to the use of a dangerous weapon.
And it's quite incredible that they were able to find him guilty on 76 counts in just about 2 hours. I know there was a break overnight, but I believe, in my belief, is that the jury only took that long because there were 76 charges and they have to sign each one. So I think that's the only reason why they took so long. They could have just, if they would just say in one page could be he's guilty of all of it, they would have done it. I'm sure of that.
So let me talk about the seriousness of this offense. The seriousness of the offense can be summed up, frankly, in one word, and that is attack. There is nothing, no other word that can best describe what happened on November 21 of 2021 than the word attack. I talked about during my remarks regarding the trial about the opportunities that Darrell Brooks had to avoid this altogether. I put Exhibit 15 on the screen for a bit, which is the exhibit that details the map. The map of the parade, it starts with White Rock, the staging area, and I believe if you look further up on Exhibit 15, it even depicts where White Rock School is. And that, of course, is where we saw the video of the altercation between Mr. Brooks, Corey Runkle, Nicholas Kirby, and Erica Patterson. Now, of course, there were moments in time before that, but that is really where things started, where I believe Mr. Brooks boiled over with rage and anger that he chose not to control on this date. He had a number of opportunities to simply drive in the other direction down White Rock, but he chose to drive toward Main Street, even though from the testimony...
I'm sorry. I double clicked, but he could have stopped. That's the biggest part. He didn't have to continue driving. He could have just stopped where he was. That's it. He was like, oh no, there were barricades everywhere where I was supposed to leave. You don't need to leave. You could just stop and wait for the parade to go through, and then you can go through.
We know it was very evident that it was staging for a parade. There were many people, may not have been exactly by the school, but farther down White Rock. From Niagara forward is where that staging area was located, and many people were there. The sights and sounds of a parade, the signs on the side of the road telling people not to park there, for example. Instead of turning around, or instead of turning left onto East Main Street or left onto Pleasant, and despite Sergeant Warner trying to flag him down and being in front of a squad with lights, and a clear indication you should listen to or honor the even gestures of a police officer, and he was in uniform, he drives down White Rock Avenue and has contact with Detective Casey, who very clearly did everything he could to stop Mr. Brooks. And in that moment, thinking it's a lost motorist. But Mr. Brooks chose to basically brush him aside with that SUV and drive on to Main Street, past more people, past many spectators, and in a manner that was not just at a speed inappropriate for a parade, but frankly, that was reckless and endangered anyone who was on the roadway at that time, whether or not he hit anyone between White Rock and Main and Barstow and Main. But during that 3-block section of Main Street, he could have turned off Buckley, Northeast Avenue, Martin Street, or in either direction on Barstow. He could have stopped, asked for the police barricades to have been removed, or frankly turned his car around even at that point and gone back the way that he had come. But he didn't do that. He chose to drive recklessly, carelessly, and maliciously through a parade route and at anyone in his path.
And let's remember that he also tried to say that it was the car that was malfunctioning. But if you would think you don't like he brought it up in the last day, 3 weeks in pretty much, that there was something wrong with the car, even though the inspection proved that that nothing was wrong. But he's tried to say that, and but don't you think that I know maybe on the first interview with the detectives he could have lied, he was scared, but after he was had a year to think it through, his first defense would have been, you know what, the car malfunction. I couldn't stop. I wanted to stop, but no, he brought it out off after everything was been said and done.
Where he struck not one, not two, not three, but 68 different people.
More.
We actually know that number's higher because we now know, we heard from the two individuals who were with Extreme Dance, the one girl who was struck by one of the individuals who was clearly struck, and that person flew into her. That would qualify for a charge based upon the state's description of how they chose to charge. It's just they didn't know until closer to the sentencing hearing. So 69 individuals if you include her. There are so many aggravating factors here, it's frankly difficult to even keep track of them all. The complete disregard for the lives of anyone else. Someone described it as depraved indifference, and I think that is the perfect phrase to capture the actions of Mr. Brooks on November 21st of 2021. The aggravated factors of the numerous opportunities to turn around or not even enter the parade route or simply to stop. The fact that he mowed over and used that vehicle as a battering ram to hit 68 individuals, never once stopping, with rage and anger at unsuspecting people at a parade who were there simply to kick off the holiday season, to experience joy with their families. The intention.
That's one of the things that also gets me a lot, is that this was a Christmas parade. And even if you don't believe in Christmas, this was just a parade, something that other people were enjoying, not harming anyone, not doing anything wrong. This was just a lot of people gathering to have a good time. And this guy ruined it. And not only ruined it for the people that were there, but also ruined it for the people that went after. I'm sure after there was a lot of people that didn't want to go anymore because of the fear, and I can totally understand that.
The intentionality of the conduct is outstanding. The viciousness, the speed, the swerving from side to side at various points. This was not a case of whodunit.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, from when this case was charged, it was clear who did this. Now, that is not to say that I prejudged this case. I did not. But after sitting through this trial, after watching the many videos, after listening to the testimony of the many, many dozens of witnesses, it is clear the state had overwhelming evidence of Mr. Brooks's guilt. What's also aggravated is his complete and utter lack of remorse. He spoke here today for 2 hours. One sentence, that's it. I'm sorry. No detail.
No. And no, he didn't even say I'm sorry. He said he didn't act like he was sorry. He said I'm sorry for what happened. He never said I'm sorry for what I did. He never took responsibility of that.
2 hours one sentence. No empathy for any of these individuals, at times mocking them with hand gestures or rolling his eyes multiple times. That is not an indication or a sign of someone who has empathy, who is sorry for what he has done. We may never know the true why, but we were provided with nothing other than a feeble attempt.
Look at this. Look at this guy. Look, he's mad. He's really angry that she's saying all of this. But look at his frown is like this. And he has a little sign over here. And he's trying to be like, you're misrepresenting me. But no, Brooks, she's saying what you are. She's telling it like it is.
Attempt to blame mental health, which frankly does a disservice to those who truly suffer from mental health issues.
Oh, he has a mental problem, but it's not a disease. He's just a mean person, to not say something else.
I understand why his family might cling to that because of the difficulty in coming to grips with a loved one doing such heinous things. But for Mr. Brooks, it's nothing more than indifference,
apathy,
deflection, and outright denial of what he did and the impact that he has caused as a result of his heinous actions. I searched for a mitigating factor in this case. I waited patiently for an apology, a true apology. I didn't get it. And not for my benefit, but for the victims.
Yeah, and the reason why you're not gonna get it is because he already passed that point. He said it himself. I'm already past the events of that day. I don't like. He basically says, I don't care anymore. I'm over it.
The law allows me to look at things such as Mr. Brooks's prior criminal history, including the history of criminal offenses and pending charges, the history of undesirable behavior patterns, which can include dismissed, uncharged, or unproven offenses or facts, even including expunged offenses not really relevant here, acts resulting in probation revocation. Of course, those are part of his criminal history, nothing specific to these charges. I can look at his personality, character, and social traits, the vicious or aggravated nature of the crimes, the degree of his culpability, his demeanor at trial and truthfulness, his age, his educational background and employment record, his remorse, repentance, and cooperativeness, his need for close rehabilitative control, the rights of the public, the recommendations of the interested parties, including victims and family members of homicide victims. I can consider statements made by his own family. I can certainly consider the length of pretrial detention, which I'd note, though, when facing 6 life sentences, is really a fraction of the time available to this court. The loss of life in this case is certainly one of the aggravating factors here today. The number of people injured, also an aggravating factor. The reach into the community, certainly palpable because this was a Christmas parade. I think it was a comment earlier, either today or yesterday, that this was not like one act where Mr. Brooks drove into a crowd of people. This was sustained driving from block to block to block to block, picking off people that were unsuspecting. 68, 69 times.
Yeah, and if he tried to say that, oh, but I didn't hit anyone. Well, someone who will do this on purpose will be like hitting as much people as they could. But no, I don't believe in that. He just saying that to be like, could have been worse. Yeah, it could have been worse, but you were not thinking about it. You just did it.
Driving over people as if they were nothing more than speed bumps. What's also aggravated is his conduct after he drove through the parade. Crashing his vehicle in an attempt to flee. It's pretty evident based upon the evidence and testimony from trial that Mr. Brooks had no idea there were these logs in that backyard that could damage his vehicle. He was attempting to flee when he ran over them, and it ultimately disabled that vehicle, and he was forced to abandon it. He ditched it, leaving personal identification information in it and his phone in a clear attempt to get out of there in a hurry. And then we have that series of videos that we saw at trial of him going through backyards, coming in contact with people, asking to use phones, ultimately ending up at Mr. Ryder's home, who graciously took him in. Never once, Mr. Brooks showing any signs of distress, of any emotion of what he had just done. Cool, calm, collected. Certainly not a sign of someone who had any remorse for what he had just done. Someone who's involved in an accident, even a tragic accident, one where they flee the scene and are later caught, oftentimes show incredible remorse, tears. Not tears for themselves, but tears for what they've caused. A recognition of the loss of life, for example, from their conduct. Nothing. An individual who simply wanted to flee. That is the epitome of consciousness of guilt evidence. Fleeing, changing your appearance, taking off the sweatshirt, not even caring that your shoes are off your feet because you're so intent on fleeing the area. Putting your hair up from it being down.
That note, I just want to say one of the things that most aggravated me of that part is that when he was captured by the police and he was like saying, "What did I do? What did I do?" Like, that was the thing that got me the most. Like, you just done all this stuff, and then when the police, you try to get out of it by saying, "What did I?" It was infuriating to hear.
No doubt, this is by far and away one of the most aggravated cases I've ever presided over. The sheer magnitude of the loss, the number of victims, the types of crimes for which the jury has convicted him. 6 counts of intentional homicide, 61 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety, 6 counts of hit and run, 2 counts of felony bail jumping, 1 count of misdemeanor battery. What's further aggravated is the fact that he was out on bond. He should have had no contact with Erica Patterson. But the rules mean nothing to Mr. Brooks. Nothing. He didn't care. This was someone who on 2 prior occasions, charged with, frankly, causing mayhem. 1, a reckless endangering safety for discharging a firearm. The other for battering and then running over Erica Patterson's foot. This court does get to consider the other act's evidence that the state sought to introduce at trial. That other act's evidence includes that on November 2 of 2021, Milwaukee police took a complaint from Erica Patterson that Mr. Brooks had run over her with his vehicle and tried to kill her. She had tire marks on her right pant leg. She could not move her leg and had blood coming from her mouth. On that date, Mr. Brooks was driving the same vehicle that he drove through the parade. Erica Patterson was conveyed to Frederick Memorial Hospital. Her injuries received medical attention. She even had that boot on her leg on November 21 of 2021.
And that case is still pending to this day. Like, we are in April of 2024, and that case still not done because Mr. Brooks keeps trying to represent himself. He's been doing all this stuff to try to delay it more.
She described Mr. Brooks to police as yelling at her, using profanity, as she tried walking past him when she was at a gas station. I think initially before that, at another location, but ultimately where he allegedly ran over her was at a gas station and caused the injury to her leg. Struck her in the face once with a closed fist, causing pain and bleeding without her consent. And then it was after she walked away that he followed her. When police had contact with him, he denied driving his mother's vehicle. When police had contact with him at his house, he ignored their commands because he was found in the vehicle, claiming that he was having an anxiety attack upon the sight of the squad car and needed to get into the home to get his inhaler.
A liar is always gonna lie. He cannot avoid it. I don't even think that at some point that he thinks about it. He just does it.
When I say the rules don't matter to Mr. Brooks and court orders mean nothing, Mr. Brooks was in custody, and there are jail phone calls where he's berating Erica Patterson, encouraging her to recant, blaming her for what had happened, saying things on that phone call.
Okay, I know what comes after this. I just want to say, if you guys have kids, if you guys have any minors, there's gonna be strong language in a second. Okay, so lower the volume, skip a little bit ahead, like 10-20 seconds, but there's gonna be strong language here. Just a warning.
Like, you trying to make it seem like everything is always everyone else's fault but yours. Like you don't never do anything to cause shit. And the whole cause of this shit was something that you fucking did. He ended the call by telling Erica Patterson, you did this shit, and you couldn't even keep your mouth shut after numerous people told you that shit. This ain't the place for you to be doing this shit, and you still ran your mouth. And I'm the one sitting in here facing all this time.
It's so weird to hear the judge cuss. It's like hearing your teacher cuss. It's not normal.
Repeatedly calls her a bitch. During a phone call on November 11th, Darrell Brooks is overheard or captured saying, Why in the hell would I just try to mow her down knowing I could kill her like that? Like, okay, I probably got a few screws loose, but I ain't hardly no goddamn fool.
Yes, you are.
He's complaining that she won't help post his bail. You didn't put a cent on my bail. Why should someone else have to pay for some shit you caused?
And I believe the money that he was trying to get from Erica that day was for that bail, because he wanted her to pay his bail.
The end, apparently, of that conversation, or at least moments later, he says to her, "Nah, I didn't try to do anything, because if I tried to do something, you wouldn't be on the phone now. That's what you're not realizing. If I really tried to do something, you wouldn't be on the phone now."
This is the kind of guy that wanted the jury to nullify his sentence. This is the kind of guy that was, oh, my children, and oh, poor me, I had to grow up in a bad environment.
That is the rage and the anger that Mr. Brooks had on November 21 of 2021 when he tracked down Erica Patterson, confronted her. This wasn't about him getting money from her, like he lied to Detective Carpenter about. This was to confront her. He clearly hit her, we know that. This is the type of man that drove...
He's not a man. He's a monster. He's a villain. He doesn't deserve to be called a man.
Through the Christmas parade. Enraged because, frankly, it's entirely possible that Corey Runkle and Nicholas Kirby saved the life of Erica Patterson. It's clear Mr. Brooks was hell-bent to cause harm to her, but she was able to get free, run back to her friends. Who knows what would have happened but for their intervention. If you think back to the testimony of Nicholas Kirby, he felt bad for threatening Mr. Brooks, like somehow this was his fault. So, Mr. Brooks, that other act's evidence is a very clear indication of your poor moral character. It demonstrates unequivocally that you have absolutely no remorse for anything that you do. You have no empathy for anyone, and that you are justified in the actions that you take. In addition to that conduct, as part of your character, this court is able to look at and consider your prior record. And I'm well aware, sir, that you're raising an objection sign, but you have forfeited your right to be here, and I will not stop, and you will not be brought into this courtroom.
Good.
I will continue. This is his prior record, going back to 2000, spanning what? Nevada, Georgia, at least police contact in Georgia. We have an unknown disposition in Wisconsin. Substantial battery in 2000, party to a crime. Put on probation. Ultimately, that was revoked. He went to prison. 2002, felony possession of THC, jail time. 2003, resisting obstructing, jail time. 2005, a disorderly conduct ticket, but he failed to pay the forfeiture and ended up serving an alternative to incarceration. He ended up serving for failing to pay 30 days jail. 2009, obstructing, 2 days jail, meaning he lied to police. 2010, strangulation. Battery was dismissed and read in, put on probation, ultimately revoked, serving 11 months jail. 2012, misdemeanor bail jumping, possession of THC, with a number of other charges being dismissed and read in, 180 days jail concurrent. Also in 2012, a misdemeanor resisting or obstructing. So either he lied or he fled from police or did something to make their job more difficult. 37 days jail consecutive. In Nevada in 2006, domestic battery, a suspended sentence. Obstructing after being found guilty at trial, for which he served jail time. 2007, statutory sexual seduction as a felony. This is for impregnating Erica Patterson when she was a minor. 2016, charged with not being in compliance with the sex offender registry requirements, for which there is an outstanding warrant. In Georgia, a 2021 arrest for battery, domestic violence, presumably with Erica Patterson based upon.
All of the 2000s had something. Every year he was like, I need to do something to make my life worse. Like, he couldn't help himself. He was, and those, all of these are preventable. Like, he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to do all of that. And he was, I don't know why he kept hell-bent on doing all of this stuff.
Upon where she came from at that time. But I won't make, I say presumably, but frankly doesn't matter who it was with. We also know that there's the 2003 paternity case out of Waukesha County. Why is that relevant? Because 8 times during that case, a warrant has been issued for contempt of court, meaning for failure to pay his financial obligations to a child or children.
Remember, he said that all this stuff about his children, how he cared about them and all of that. You didn't even pay for any of that. You waited until your kid was 18, so you could say, "Hey, he's grown now. Why do I need to pay?"
The pending cases for which one pending case, I should say, he was, I don't believe, charged with bail jumping for that one. The 20 CF 2550, 2 counts of recklessly using a weapon, felon in possession of a firearm, released ultimately in March of 2021. He's accused in that case of firing a shot. There were two occupants in a vehicle. One was his nephew, and when he was picked up by police, a loaded Beretta, 9mm, which had previously been reported as stolen, was found in his possession. I already talked about the other acts evidence, that is the for which he was charged with felony bail jumping, the second-degree recklessly endangering safety for allegedly running over Erica Patterson, the battery DV, DCDV, and a resisting obstructing. And then the second would be he was charged with intimidation of a victim, felony bail jumping for conduct on November 8th. So November 2nd, November 8th. This is clearly someone with a demonstrated violent history and past. Someone who has absolutely no regard for anyone but himself. To say that he is a lifelong criminal, I think, is accurate. He disobeys law enforcement, he disrespects court orders, and he certainly demonstrated that he has no respect for these proceedings. Multiple acts of violence, violent, dangerous behavior that predated the attack on the Waukesha Christmas parade.
Yeah.
His character, or lack thereof, is also demonstrated by his complete and utter denial of culpability in this case. His blaming of his mental health or alleged mental health. There's no evidence that he was suffering from a manic episode. I went through all of that earlier today, going through the 4 reports related to the special plea. None of those doctors found support for his special plea. Mr. Brooks talked about at times this being the will of God or that all things happen for a reason. I'm here to tell you, Mr. Brooks, you are not an instrumentality of God. Death may be inevitable to all of us, but you cut the lives of 6 individuals short. You alone, Mr. Brooks, cut the lives of these 6 innocent people short. I talked earlier about how I believe he's intelligent, deliberate, and purposeful in what he does. I've considered that you have treatment needs. Perhaps there are intersecting mental health issues as it relates to your personality disorder, but those issues can best be addressed in a confined setting where the Department of Corrections will be charged statutorily to evaluate you and to provide any medical or mental health treatment that you need. This is a case that falls squarely on the need to protect the community. I referenced this earlier. There's really 3 primary reasons for the sentences I will impose here today. One is punishment, one is to protect the community, and the other is to provide justice and closure to the victims. Because under that category of need to protect, the court does get to consider the impact of these crimes on the victims. I went through at length in reviewing all of those victim impact statements. I certainly didn't go through every single one, just highlighting some of them, but doing so with purpose, because it is very clear to this court that Mr. Brooks has caused carnage, mayhem. It has resulted in many people suffering from PTSD, from mental and emotional trauma that will take a lifetime to recover from, and for some, perhaps, if at all.
Yeah.
You have taken away from these individuals future memories. They will never have birthdays with the 6 individuals who were killed. There will be no weddings. There will be no graduations. There will be none of the milestones that these families were looking forward to, whether it be for an innocent 8-year-old or an innocent 79-year-old. Frankly, Mr. Brooks, no one is safe from you. This community can only be safe if you are behind bars for the rest of your life. The actions of Darrell Brooks demand punishment. The community is not safe from your violent and criminal conduct unless you are in custody. You left a path of destruction, chaos, death, injury, confusion, and panic as you drove 7 or so blocks through the Christmas parade, never once stopping or seemingly caring about the wake of carnage that you left. 4 of those blocks were turned into a scene that frankly is no different than a war zone.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think that most of the people that attended that parade still to this day, it's been like 2 years, 3 years, 2.5 years, and they still think about it. Like, there's nothing that they can do to forget it. There's always gonna be part of that, and part of the community, part of everyone that we're watching these videos and seeing the complete lack of remorse from him. But let's get right into the sentence.
On counts 1 through 6, this court is imposing a life sentence without the possibility or eligibility for extended supervision consecutive to one another. 1 life sentence for Virginia Sorensen. 1 life sentence for Leanna Owen. 1 life sentence for Tamara Durand. 1 life sentence for Jane Kulik. 1 life sentence for Bill Hospel. And 1 life sentence for Jackson Sparks. I've considered the enhancer and the additional 5 years that I could impose, but I don't need to really order that because I've not made him eligible for extended supervision, and it would only be to increase his time on initial confinement. But make no mistake, Mr. Brooks, you use that vehicle as a battering ram, no different than, frankly, a firearm. On counts 7 through 67, these are 61 counts of first-degree recklessly endangering safety. These charges alone and these convictions without the enhancer carry a maximum of 12 and a half years. Because of the enhancer, a total of 17 and a half years. And under Wisconsin law, the 5 years is added to the initial term of confinement. So what could be 7 and a half years is a maximum of 12 and a half years. And I'd ask that everyone no longer show any reaction to the sentence so I can get through this.
All right, so she's gonna name all of the sentences. She basically gets maximum of all of them. She throws the book at the face of Darrell Brooks. So she 6 consecutive life sentences plus all the other charges, and that's what Darrell has to live now. Like, he has 1 case pending, so he's still doing his thing. But after that, he's gonna be forgotten and put in a hole, and he's never gonna get out of it. But yeah, this is the last part of the trial. I still have some videos to make about him. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Thank you guys for following this trial with me. We're gonna do more. We're gonna do more videos. We're gonna do more trials. This is just starting. I'm sorry for the stop and go that have been going on in the last few weeks. But I'm planning, I hopefully gonna be able to get back to the flow that I was doing. Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful day. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.